Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. Yes, we're back on the hub issue. I have ruminated and chewed over and spat out so many ideas about this that I was going to put it on the back burner. Well, I had literally put it on the back burner. And then I thought, no, we've still got to resolve it. And I did come across one of the methods that the chap used to build his dome, where he uses these what he called steel dowels. They've got specific names and they vary quite a bit, so I'm just calling them steel dowels as well, because they go into wood but they've got the metal thread on one end, the timber thread on the other. The longest ones I could find were 200 millimeters in total length, and it showed on those specific ones the thread for the metal and the wood were 60 millimeters long. You can get somewhere with a longer thread, but the point being, it all depends on your country and what you can get. I still think that a ordinary metal thread screwed into a tight pre-drilled hole in the timber would be more than adequate. And we can choose the length that we want to embed the thread into the wood ourselves, and not be dictated to by the item that we purchased. Besides which, as I said, the timber thread is only 60 millimeters. We know that if we have a thread that's 90 degrees to the axis of the tube, that we can put a nut and washer on here, torque it up, and the rod itself is in tension like they are designed to be. But our struts are at an angle, so I've got a choice of angling the struts and deciding where and how many bolts I make use of. Now this is only a 100mm thick piece of timber, and putting two rods in might be problematic and it may be unnecessary, but I want to be able to use them in a manner that's the strongest possible way, and I think that putting one in the bottom or in the lower half is a good idea. That means I can get a very long penetration and the thread crosses the different grain structure, making it quite a strong insertion. The top one, of course, starts to approach the surface or penetrate with any length of rod, but it's of reasonable length, or it'll be close to the surface even if it doesn't penetrate it, which is a bit of an issue in itself. Or we could bend the rod and so that the nut does up the same on both of them, but as soon as you bend anything that's been formed, you can start to create stress fractures where the thread has been formed, and that may have introduced a question of strength where I prefer not to go down that avenue. It could snap, basically. Will it? I don't know. Then the preferred method that I would have is that the threaded rod runs parallel to the long axis of the timber. You could certainly put two rods in there, drill the holes, and all well and fine. But as we've touched on before, the nut would then push and cause rotational stress to the bolt. Or now, if we had a steel rod drilled through on our drill press and then docked in half or whatever, we'd have a flat surface for the bolt to have the nut tightened and stressed, and the circumference of the rod could meet our angle for our dome. And that's probably the better option and able to be done in the workshop. Or, and this is certainly for serious contention, we get a square piece of stock. In this case I've just shown 30 by 30, and we drill a hole through the end of the rod, and then we can cut it on a angle, in this case 15, maybe 10 to 15 degrees. One of the struts actually has around about a 15-degree inclination. Most of the other struts have around about a 10-degree inclination from the axis of the hub. So if we can mark 15 or 10 degrees, cut them with a handsaw or probably a cut-off disc on a grinder, then we can accommodate quite easily that inclination issue that we have with our rod and strut. So these two options, the square piece of section and the round piece of rod, are a way to move forward with our hub, or the fact that we've got a potential method to go forward with means that we can literally carry on and look at other smaller aspects of the hub or the dome itself. Coming back to that idea that it is just a piece of landscaping architecture, I justify it in my mind as that if I need to make multiples of these, or I have to repair, replace, extend, adjust, I've got a method to do it. I don't want to have an ad hoc, one-off only method or component. And this is where I do like the idea of the star plates, where you had them perhaps laser cut. The look and the function of them it's very, very appealing, I've got to say. But that they have to be cut by laser, ideally, for, again, the same reason that if I wanted to make additions or alter things or do multiple in the maybe a commercial sense, then yes, you do have to go down the route of employing a company to do it. And negates my criteria, one of the criteria of being able to do it in a home workshop. These, I do believe, could be milled in a home workshop reasonably successfully, even with hand or basic electric tools. So we've got a decision now made, where once I was ruminating over it, the decision is to move forward, assuming that a rod or a square piece of stock can be machined to facilitate our angled strut, but the rod's inserted parallel to the strut. Okay, rambling. I will leave you with that. Hopefully I don't change my mind. We will see, won't we? Okay, see you in the next one. Bye.